Every 2 years, the National Science Foundation, NSF, is required to tell the president how the U.S. is doing in regards to science and engineering. And the results are not very good at all. Here we go with another Celebrate Truth video. These are the 10 questions that are used to test the U.S. public's knowledge of science. As economies worldwide grow increasingly knowledge intensive, and interdependent capacity for innovation becomes ever more critical, the NSF says in its latest report titled Science and Engineering Indicators 2018. The news is okay, but not great. Americans are increasingly interested in environmental issues, the report says, and relative to previous years, they're expressing more concern about climate change and humanity's role in it, of course, because they're really brainwashing everyone with the whole nonsense that we're all making the climate change because we have too much carbon. Our carbon footprint, reduce your carbon footprint, they say. Don't be science deniers. Those people are dangerous. But this is interesting. They also trust scientists more than roles in any other institution aside from the military. So I guess the military would be, at the top. But again, out of all the institutions, people are trusting scientists. And this is, again, what I've exposed for so long, the whole idea of people putting way too much trust in scientists. They can say whatever they want, scientists discovered, and it must be true. But the U.S. lags behind dozens of countries in the rate of awarding bachelor's and advanced degrees in science, technology, maths, or engineering. The American public also isn't doing much better on 10 simple questions the NSF asked to test the public's understanding of science. Scroll down to see the questions the NSF asked for the latest report. See how many answers you get right, and then compare how 11 countries who asked the same science questions performed. Here's question 1. True or false? The center of the Earth is very hot. The correct answer, true. Scientists estimate the Earth's core is more than 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly the temperature found on the surface of the sun. All right. Now, I've gone through this many times, and we're going to go through how the countries did here. But what I find really interesting about this is, remember, the question is not, is it hot down there? We know about lava. We know that there's definitely, temperatures that are pretty hot. But what was interesting is they said, what is the Earth's core measured at? Now, let's just see the illustrations we've seen constantly. The structure of the Earth, they always show you this. The reality is that no one's ever gone further than like 10 miles. Again, 12 kilometers is the record. Russian project did it in the 1980s, and they got 12 kilometers into the Earth's crust. Okay? So, I don't know, it's about 8 miles. The furthest that man has drilled is like 8 miles. Yet they're going to tell you what exactly is at the core of the Earth, right? Remember, here we go. We have the outer core. We got the lower mantle. We got the upper mantle. And we've got the crust. All right? So here we go. There's the crust. That's what they've gone into. All right? Yet they basically tell us exactly all the different layers of the gobstopper and all the temperatures, and they can only theorize what's here. They have no clue, but yet they tell us. And again, we got to find out, how well do you know science? How well do you know scientism? When they're coming up with theories and they're nothing more than conjecture, postulation, it is nothing more than theories developed by man that has a consensus to basically give their entire narrative of millions and billions of years. But let's continue. Let's just see how the countries did here. We got USA at 85%, but looks at Canada, my country here. Looks like we're the most indoctrinated. So there's some hope for you, America. You guys are fighting the system a little bit. Looks like Canada is pretty much heavily indoctrinated into all of these questions. But let's continue. Question 2. True or false? The continents have been moving their location for millions of years and will continue to move. The correct answer, true. Plate tectonics is the science of how continent-sized slabs of crust form Earth's outermost layer and constantly move and regenerate. Most move less than a couple inches per year, according to Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, though the process may be essential to making a rocky planet habitable to life. All right, so one of the reasons why the planet's habitable is because the tectonic shifting of the plates is going on. This is nonsense. They have absolutely no clue. Again, another theory they're looking at trying to put these pieces together. And as far as basically saying that millions and millions of years this has been happening, there's absolutely no scientific data to support that whatsoever. Empirically, again, you cannot go into the past. Therefore, you have to have theories on what happened. So let's go to question number 3. Which is correct? The Earth goes around the sun, or B, the sun goes around the Earth? So what is it, A or B? The correct answer, they say A. We know this is true on a basic level because we can see the position of the stars change over time. Wrong. They say that basically the stars have been changing positions millions of years. For example, Polaris, the North Star, they say that 50,000 years ago it was in a different location. Again, this cannot be proved through the scientific method using true empirical science. There is no way to validate this. Yet they say, oh, it's been moving over millions of years, so we know that this is exactly what's up. Interesting that this is how they're going to support that the sun goes around the Earth versus the Earth goes around the sun. Another example, they say, well, the space age has also required us to intimately understand this fact and acknowledge our puny existence in the cosmos via stunning pictures of Earth from afar. And again, we've gone through pictures in other previous videos. They're nothing more than CGI, composites. There's tons of videos on there. Go look at real photographs of the Earth from space. And wait a minute, we got a problem. There are none. And we got problems with the ones that they say they are from the Apollo missions, stuff like that. But again, 2018, there definitely should be not only real photographs of the Earth, there should be, HD footage of the spinning Earth from space, yet it doesn't exist. So again, I just found it interesting that these are the big scientific definitions, and this is how we know that the Earth goes around the sun, is because we know on this. Well, no, we don't know on that at all. Again, that's not true. And the space age has required us to understand this, that we're puny. Again, we have no value, and we're going to get into another science question they bring up to show us that we just really are nothing more than an explosion. We're a random accident in a vast universe. But interesting so far, getting into the questions. Let's continue. Actually, let's just see who's doing well here. Again, Canada. Looks like Canada is the top of the heap again, right? United States, 73. Let's see who's less indoctrinated. Well, Europeans, they're less indoctrinated on that, 66%, right? We got India at 70%. Now, again, they're going to say, oh, these people aren't really that smart, but there's a lot of smart people in Europe. Come on, you can't just throw it down like that. So another interesting thing. Question 4, true or false? All radioactivity is man-made. The correct answer? False. Natural radiation is everywhere, especially in space. Of course, especially in space. Haven't we heard about the Van Allen radiation belts they always talk about? Interesting how it was no problem to go through there, for the Apollo missions. And yet, recently NASA's come out, trial under fire with the Orion project, saying we're still trying to figure out how we can shield ourselves from the Van Allen radiation belts. We're having a problem with radiation. Don't you find it interesting for new people that are watching this video that it's been almost 50 years and they've never been back to the moon? Man-made, no one's ever gone there, Very interesting. Again, look into the moon landing, it's really pivotal. But again, when you believe in the moon landing, all this stuff falls into place, no big deal. But it is a big deal because now they're supposedly sending spacemen in cars to Mars. Give me a break. Let's continue. True or false? Electrons are smaller than atoms. The correct answer? True. Electrons are much less massive than the protons and neutrons that make up the core of atoms. All right, interesting question to throw in there when you're getting into atoms. Maybe we could be getting into, nuclear technology. And let's just see how everyone did. Canada, 58%. Wow, China, 22%. Whereas the United States, 48%. So a lot of people really, I guess, aren't aware of that, but I found it interesting. Maybe we should look into that more because, again, this is the top 10 questions to test the public's knowledge of science. All right. Question 6, true or false? Lasers work by focusing sound waves. The correct answer? False. Lasers concentrate light waves, not sound waves. Interesting that they would throw that question in. Lasers, most people look at it like as a light. Why they would say it's focusing on sound waves? Looks like, China did really bad on that. United States, 45%. Malaysia, Japan, we got Russia at 24%. Canada and Israel. Looks like Israel really knows their stuff. Now, I just thought it was interesting. Why are they including that one in there? Lasers work by focusing sound waves. All right. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a very strange question. Maybe you can write in the comments what you see on that, or if there's any research anyone's done. I'm not saying that this is the answer is not right, but I'm just saying, interesting. Why are they throwing this in? Because I know exactly why they're throwing in the next question. Question 7, true or false? The universe began with a huge explosion. The correct answer, true, with a caveat. This is the best theory that we have as to how the universe began. Again, remember, key word, theory, not scientific fact. How they're going to actually test people on science and say this is the best theory we have. And people will say, oh, you don't understand what scientific theory means. I understand what the difference between fact, empirical true science, and a theory. Yes, I do understand the difference. There's a big difference in something that can be truly proven scientifically or something that is their best theory. Again, it's nothing more than theories of men, and I've gone further into other things when it comes to, even further as far as an agenda and a deception. But the point of an infinite density at the beginning of the universe began to expand and created the galaxies, planets, and stars that we see, still in motion today. People call this the Big Bang, though it's not technically an explosion. For an explosion to occur, it requires pre-existing space, and the materials will be disrupted and scattered in that space. For example, a star explodes and distributes material in the space. PhD student and nuclear astrophysicist in Florida State University wrote in an email to Business Insider, "The Big Bang is very different than that. It is the expansion of space itself. Materials, elementary particle, antiparticles are created in the process of expansion. So calling it an explosion would be wrong." Oh, but that's right. It is wrong. Because again, what do we get when we have this whole Big Bang construct? Everything now, and you talk to anyone, and again, look at how the countries did. Let's just take a peek here. See, United States, 39%. A lot of people aren't buying this Big Bang nonsense. Canada, unfortunately, they're just, indoctrinated. I don't know. Got to do a lot of work in Canada. You have some Canada friends, send them some literature, because it seems like these guys are just really hooked into this whole Big Bang nonsense. India really aren't buying it. Israel, is pretty strong. South Korea is really strong. Russia, they're just like, yeah, we're not really at all interested in your theories and saying they're scientific fact. Because I've gone through this. What does the Big Bang create? It creates nothing but an atheistic worldview in the fact that we're a random accident. But what's even more troubling is they say this is science. How is this science? Right? This is all it is. It's atheism. The belief that there was nothing, and nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing magically exploded for no reason, creating everything, and then a bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which then turned into dinosaurs. Makes perfect sense. So again, what do we get? We have nothing exploded and created everything. This is the scientific definition. Maybe this is why a lot of people aren't buying it, yet they're completely trying to indoctrinate through the school textbooks, through education, through institutions, through NASA. Again, this is the predominant view. This is what you don't debate. Again, if you actually, on this question, said false, well, you got it wrong. And they'll say, you need to know your science better. But again, the universe didn't begin with a huge explosion. Nothing became something. And the idea for a longest time that basically people with a biblical cosmology were attaching God to this and saying, no, well, God created the Big Bang. No. Look right back. The entire Big Bang model is a lie. The Earth was created before the sun, moon, and stars. In the Big Bang, it's the sun, moon, and stars before you got Earth. So again, you have to look into this, especially if you're going to look into the Bible and try to actually correlate the two and bring the two together. It can't be done. Question 8, true or false? It is the father's gene that decides whether the baby is a boy or girl. The correct answer? True. Sex is determined by 2 chromosomes, and sperm carries one of them, either an X female chromosome or a Y male chromosome. Whichever sperm makes it to the egg first to join an X chromosome in the mother's egg determines the baby's sex. This is what I found interesting. XX is a girl and XY is a boy, anatomically speaking. So this is what they've now included in here in the old science, which again, truly in scientific biological science, XX is a girl, XY is a boy. I'm not even saying this is false. This is true. But now they say it's anatomically speaking. So of course, that's only the way it determines a girl or boy. Because again, if you're a boy, you feel like a girl, well, you probably, are a girl. You can be a girl. You just have to think it. Or vice versa. This is nonsense. It's truly not science. And again, this is where they're trying to slip this stuff in. But let's continue. How did everyone do? United States, 59. Look at that. India. Look at Israel. China. Canada. Guess they didn't even want to talk about it. All right. Question 9. True or false? Antibiotics kill viruses as well as bacteria. The correct answer? False. Antibiotics only kill bacteria, not viruses. Interesting question, why they're throwing that in there. I thought for a minute they might be bringing in vaccinations and stuff like that to try to, bring all that in to try to make you scientific literate and also, basically move that direction. But maybe you can comment and find out why this would be in there. Just interesting. How do people do? United States 51%, Canada 53%. Looks like a lot of people in China, Japan, Malaysia, and Russia don't buy it, or they just don't know it. But again, it's not saying it's wrong, just saying why is it in the top 10 questions to determine where people are with science. Because I definitely know where the last one is, and I've known quite a few of them. There was just a few that I really wasn't sure on. So let's get to question 10, the last one. True or false? Human beings, as we know them today, developed from earlier species of animals. The correct answer? True. Fossils in the ground, genetic studies, and research over the past century have shown again and again that evolution not only gave rise to species like humans, but will continue to shape the forms of our descendants. That's right, not only will we be changing in the future and become mutants and different new type of humanoids, but also they talk again about that we are just earlier species of animals. This is absolutely false. We see nothing at all in the record whatsoever as far as transitional fossils and the whole idea that we've all seen this, right? Again, this is everywhere. What is this? People say this is the theory of evolution. And again, the word theory. But also, this is a picture. It's a drawing. Do you understand that? It's the same thing with the solar system. They show us drawings. They don't show us real, true life. They show us drawings. This is a drawing. This is a drawing of an animal, a monkey. And again, if you go back even further, it's crawling and all this. And, you go back further, it's slime. And if you go back further than slime, it's a rock. It rained millions of years on rocks, and from that primordial soup became us. Isn't that beautiful, people? Isn't that lovely? Only problem is there's tons of evidence to support the fact in so many different ways. There's no transitional fossils. Again, it's a theory of man. But again, they have to keep this narrative, and all this narrative melds together. You got the Big Bang exploding, millions and billions of years. And over this time, we gradually, evolve, just like, everything else is gradual. Like the stars over time, they gradually move. Therefore, we know that, we're the ones that are spinning around spinning around the sun. Again, it's always hidden in billions and trillions and quadrillion years. The stars, they're, 1,800 light years away. I mean, just absurd distance. 1 light year is 7 trillion miles. 1 light year. Now, when you start looking at the numbers they're saying, just remember that 1 light year, just one, is 7 trillion with a T miles. But again, everything from the Big Bang to evolution, always masquerading in billions and millions and trillions. And interesting they didn't even bring up dinosaurs, but they kind of did, because again, when I brought up the big nonsense of atheism, right? What does it do? It creates atheism. It destroys God in people's mind. All of this quote unquote science, that's nothing more than scientism. It's a religion, but it's a directed religion at destroying God in people's mind. It's a very brilliant play by Satan to actually come in and actually disguise it as true science. But the reality is, and I've said this so many times, there is no scientific experiment to conclusively prove that we're even moving. The idea that the Earth is moving around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, and we're traveling through the Milky Way galaxy and all these incredible speeds. Again, there's not one scientific experiment to conclusively prove empirically that we are indeed moving. Not to mention the curvature of the Earth, which is another video. Look into that. But again, we have been lied to on so many different areas. It's not even funny. We get back into the countries as far as believing in evolution, we've got Canada at 74%. Japan, wow, Japan is completely indoctrinated in the whole evolutionary nonsense when it comes from evolving from apes. United States, 52%. So you got to see that there's been heavy work being done in the United States, even more so in Russia when it comes to evolution. So again, there has been a lot of great, Christian ministries. There's been a lot of good scientists that have come forward with a lot of evidence, over the last at least 50 years when it comes to the lies of evolution. And it's making a dent, definitely in these where a lot of the work is being done, United States and Canada, stuff like that. But again, we've got a lot of work to do when it comes to the solar system, when it comes to all this nonsense. But anyways, I don't know what everyone thinks as far as, how everything was put together. But again, let's just do the conclusion here. Countries that didn't ask certain questions to report data on them, NA, had those items excluded from their overall average shown here. But the best to worst, the rankings for 2017 is Canada. So Canada's number one as far as the best. Israel, the EU, South Korea, the US, Switzerland, Japan, Malaysia, India, China, and Russia. The US effectively got a D- average, while the top country, Canada, got a C-. So even at the top country of indoctrination, the most indoctrinated country when it comes to science is Canada. It's still only a C-, which, you get a C- in school, it's not doing too well, so you shouldn't really be too happy. But in this case, we should be happy because it's showing that there is a lot of work being done. People aren't buying into all these different lies that they're reading. Just because scientists discover or scientists say it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, especially when it comes to the universe beginnings, when it comes to the origins, about how the universe existed. Again, these are just theories. This is not science. And people should fight this a lot more. In school, kids should actually be questioning their teachers. We should do this respectfully. We should bring, this data to the table, and we should enter into the debate as far as what truly is scientific. What is, what can we do under the scientific method? So much of this now has moved so far away from true science. It's nothing but scientism. Watch my documentary, Scientism Exposed, Scientism Exposed 2. Again, it really gets into a lot of this, from evolution to Big Bang to even geocentrism and heliocentrism. So it all goes in stages. It looks like there's a lot of people questioning evolution because, again, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of videos, a lot of resources out there to combat the nonsense theory. There's nothing scientific about it. Again, nothing but an agenda, a deception, and something to kill God in your mind. It wasn't so much just to go against God, but it was to convince humanity that God doesn't even exist. And people would rather believe that we just came from nothing. It wasn't like they created their own, their different type of God or their different type of intelligent design. And, now they're going into aliens and they're going into some other stuff. But the reality is that most people believe they came from nothing. But it's going to transition. They're going to talk about the fact of the missing link, and it's going to be, an evolved species somewhere that at one point seeded us, that basically injected their DNA into a monkey, into animals here, and, from that became this hybrid of humans and, half animal and half some intelligent DNA from an evolved species, something like that. Again, it's coming. You see science moving that direction, talking about basically that's the way it must have happened. You see, the media, you see movies, Hollywood, everything seems to be moving that direction. It's another video for another time. Again, this one is basically testing people's knowledge on science. And I just thought it was interesting. I would bring them up. 10 questions that are used to test the public's knowledge of science. How many can you answer? How many did you get right? How many did you get wrong? I guess in this case of this video, you should be pretty happy if you got quite a few wrong, especially the ones that are nothing more than scientism. Anyone catch anything on the other questions that I really haven't gone through as far as bacteria and viruses with antibiotics? What was the other one? There was some other ones that people were talking about. I was just kind of curious why they would be put in here. Oh yeah, the XY chromosome, when they were getting into the male determines the sex. I just thought it was interesting, anatomically speaking. Now what makes a boy or a girl? Again, they added that caveat in there. But again, there were some interesting ones. Radioactivity is man-made. False, right? They're saying it's everywhere, especially in space. I thought that was interesting, getting into the Van Allen radiation belts. But getting into electrons, they're smaller than atoms. So yeah, and then this was a really weird one. Lasers work by focusing sound waves. You know, why is that in there? Just interesting out of these 10 questions. A lot of them make sense, some of them don't, but again, remember, they're showing the president each year so the president can assess how well everyone's doing on understanding science, or how many people are indoctrinated into their scientism. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will be back to you real soon. Take care. Blessings.